Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Western Springs Speedway, Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway for the 2021 going into 2022 season. It's been a tough year with COVID and all that comes with that, and here we are facing the possibility of getting back racing again at the greatest little racetrack in the world. So tonight we're going to take you through what's coming up at Western Springs Speedway for this season. It's going to be a little bit different, but it is going to be the action you know and love. We're going to meet some of the stars of the track in all the classes of racing we have here at Western Springs Speedway. There's going to be a little bit of a chance for you later on to get ready to join us in the Jack Daniels Legends Lounge later in the season as well, but more on that in a minute. Plus, if you are following the Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway Facebook page, you know how every week we've got a nice little quiz for you? Well, tonight we're going to give you the answers to some of the questions. We're not going to tell you what they are. You're going to have to watch for it. So carry on with that one. I thought we'd start out, though, with a young man who was, been coming to Speedway. Geez, how long, Troy Pennington, have you been racing at Western Springs?
Yeah, I've been racing since I was 10 years old, so coming on 9 seasons. Started in quarter midgets when I was 10. And just been working my way up through TQs.
Quarter midgets is where I first saw you out there, and I remember being out in the middle of the field, and we interviewed you after each races. One of the things about the racing of Troy Pennington I noticed was consistency. I mean, who gave you that knowledge? Because it wasn't always about getting out there and making sure you were number one. You were making sure you had a clean, tidy car. You didn't get caught up in any damage, and you drove the wheels off the thing. And if it was number one on the podium, great. But if it was 2 or 3 on the podium, it was equally great. But you podiumed just about every race.
Yeah, that last season in the quarter midget was unbelievable, but it's all due to my dad. You know, he just instilled that in me ever since we started. Just always gave me a great race car that we never really had problems with, and yeah, he just instilled that in the quarter midgets is if you're racing for 4th, 5th, but you're racing cars, it's the best thing as opposed to just running around in the leads. So yeah, I was stoked. I have to owe everything to Dad and Dave and everyone else that helped us, and just made such a reliable, enjoyable car so I could go out and have fun racing.
So you started in the quarter midgets 9 years ago. So that's 5 seasons in the quarter midgets, because you stepped up to TQs 4 seasons ago? 3 seasons?
3 seasons ago.
This is going to be your 4th season?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Big step going up to the TQs?
It is a big step, especially in the competition. Like in the quarter midgets, it's always an evolving class, like there's kids that are at the end of their age that are really quick, and then you got kids that are just starting. So there's always an evolution in the quarter midgets, where as you jump into the TQs, you get those guys that have been racing for 10, 20 years. You get the names of Dwayne Todd and the Bakers and Ryan Barry and all those top cars. They've been racing the class for so long, and their setup knowledge and everything is just so big.
When you get guys like that have been racing for so long, so much knowledge, and amongst them so many titles, I mean, the 100%. Top TQ drivers, as you step up into that, what's it like? Is it intimidating? You meet these guys in the pits and you think, oh, it's Dwayne Todd.
Or it's hard to say if it's intimidating. It's when you line up against them, it's like, oh, and you're doing well against them, you're like, it's actually pretty cool that we're doing so well in our first few years. But yeah, no, it's cool to race against guys that have won so much, especially the Todd brothers, and yeah, it's just cool to line up and go racing. We
talked about this just before we went live about getting out there on the track and racing around on the track, and you said it's kind of like everyone's happy and pals in the pit, and you get out on the racetrack and you hate them. Does the red mist come down when you go out the gate?
Oh, I think you just know that every position, every car out there is just an extra position. The higher up you can finish, the better it is. But yeah, everyone in the TQ class, we just get along so well. We just go out we went down to Rotorua last year and it got rained out, so we go out and play on the luge, and a couple of us go go-karting with each other because we've got our own little dirt cart. So it's just a good little camaraderie and catch up.
Here's a question for you then. When you go luging or you go out in the go-karts, does suddenly the racecraft come back in, like you're catching a guy in the luge and you just give him a little tap to turn him around?
Yeah, we destroy some stuff in the go-karts.
Geez, I thought you guys would be better than that. Just like a racer everywhere. I've got to ask you, though, going from quarter midgets up into the TQs, is there another goal? Are we going to progress through it? Are we looking at F2s, midgets, sprint cars?
Well, yeah, my main goal would be midgets are the premier class in New Zealand, but I'm just happy to be racing anything that has 4 wheels. So yeah, but obviously the end goal is midgets or sprint cars, and I want to be racing in America one day. That's every young Kiwi's goal, I think.
Yeah, and we Kiwis have a great track record in the States as well. And they race TQs in the States. It's a different name for it, isn't it?
Micro sprints, which I was lucky enough to run in 2019.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So what was that like?
That was impressive. Yeah, good fun. We only did 9 shows in 3 weeks, so we did half our season in 3 weeks. It was pretty wicked. But
Wow. Whereabouts were you racing?
Pennsylvania. So I was lucky enough to get picked up by a young guy, Mike Forsey, who runs a race team up there. And yeah, he just runs 2 other kids and just had an absolute ball of a time.
So what's the spec of those cars versus the TQs here?
They're a little bit of they're smaller and wider, so they've got a smaller wheel track, smaller length and then wider.
Yep.
A little bit more horsepower, so they race a bit faster, but they run on such small tracks. Like if people go to Rosebank Road or tracks like Gisborne that are real banks, yeah, pretty cool.
Now, the TQ race, the TQ class is very strictly controlled, isn't it? In terms of engine size and sort of pretty much what you can do with the car. So what are the basics of the TQ?
Well, the TQ midgets are pretty, they're all pretty controlled. Everyone's got you can play with your own chassis and shocks, but everyone's got to run a GSXR 750 or equivalent. There's a few other engine makes you can use, but the majority of people run a 2005 GSXR 750, and then they have to be bone stock. So,
wow, so just absolutely straight the way it came out of the factory.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It makes the racing pretty tight. You know, everyone's got the same or pretty equivalent horsepower, so every driver's got to find that small inch to edge out everyone else, which makes it pretty exciting.
The interesting thing about that is the fact that it's so tight, so controlled, so it really does come down to the skill of the driver and being able to put it there on the track. When you go, and consistency is the key as we started out this thing. I've got to ask you a question though, and this is just a quick one. When you first started in racing, you were at school.
Yep.
So what high school did you go to?
I went to Rosehill College.
Rosehill College.
Yeah.
What was it like at Rosehill College when you go to school on a Monday morning and everyone talks about the parties and that they went to in the weekend, and you sat there and thought, "Shit, I'm a racing driver."
Oh, you sort of got used to it, doing it since you were 10 years old. Everyone just knows you're going racing on the weekend, all your friends. But no, it was pretty nice to get out of some school things and, had a pretty accommodating teachers to deal with it. But yeah.
Oh, so here we go. We're getting ready for the season. You said just as you came up the stairs, you're excited about being back and ready to race at Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway for this season. What's the favourite track that you've ever raced on?
Oh, that would be a tough one. Either a track that I raced in America, Lanco Speedway, real banked, like it was like a Bristol level banking. That was really cool. Just running around.
In a TQ?
No, in a micro sprint.
Oh, micro,
yeah. Running those with wings on it. You were running that far off the wall that night.
Wow.
That was unbelievably fun. But you can't go past Western Springs. I can say it because it's Western Springs broadcast, but totally. you can't go past the atmosphere at the track and just the difficulties. Like people know it all over the world and America and everything of how difficult the track is. You just watch Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell; they struggle on it. So when you're able to tame it, I haven't quite got the win here in the TQ yet, but that's the goal. So
it's coming.
Yeah, when you can tame it, then it's a pretty cool place.
Troy Pennington, TQ driver, one to watch out for. A whole bunch of new sponsors this season. Quickly, we'll cover off the sponsors, and then I'll let you go. So who's your new sponsors for the season?
So I'm fortunate enough to be sponsored by Placemakers Cook Street for the last few years. We picked up Burger King sponsorship, Bally Mitzi Wreckers, Clark Performance, Mainline Construction, Logic Print. There's a whole host of others, Technini Custom Fabrication, that just help us get to the track and go racing every weekend. So yeah, I can't do it without them.
Well, racing is going to be starting soon. Thanks very much, Troy, for dropping in. Can't wait to see you when we get back racing here at Western Springs Speedway. And of course, there's a whole host of people bringing you the action here at Western Springs when you turn up. Sure, there's me, but there's another couple of guys that really know this place inside out. Both of them ex-racers, Alistair Wootton and Graham Standring.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's my name's Graham Standring and this is Alistair Wootton. What our plan for the season is, and we're really quite excited about what's happening at the moment, is I would like to let you know everything that happens at the Speedway. So when a car crashes, what damage has been done, whether they can fix it, all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to be on the ground, running around, doing my usual thing, interviewing drivers, etc., and getting really close action about what's happening and so on and so forth. Alistair, you're doing the commentary by yourself this year.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to be up in the booth, obviously calling the races, and obviously working in with Nick and Graham. Obviously, Nick's going to be up in the booth, and obviously linking up with Graham and I between the pits and the commentary booth. So there's going to be plenty of action on track this year, Graham. And given that what we've been through for the last 3 months, I think we're all chomping at the bit and ready to see some cars on racetrack. That's for sure.
Yeah, speaking of chomping at the bit, even though we're doing a thing today, I was really quite excited about getting here today. So, yeah, I honestly cannot wait. So I just want to give the best that I can for the people and explain everything, and so you can understand it. I don't want to use the too technical terms that make it a little bit difficult for people to understand, or only the people in the sport can understand. I'm going to simplify things so that everybody can understand it and have some more passion about it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something pretty exciting, and I think maybe the layman terms, I think that's maybe going to help our friend Nick up in the booth as well. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think anything would help Nick, but he's a superstar in my eyes, and so him and I are like crazy. So we've had a lot of fun together, and we're going to be really active, and Nick's going to be sitting up there just taking it pretty easy. So it'll be quite different, but really anticipating a great season coming up this year. We've had a lot of things happen in the off-season naturally, and the end of the season might have been a telltale for what we are about to see at the start of this season, do you think?
Yeah, I think you're completely right there, Graham, and we were talking off air earlier about some of the drivers that were really starting to gain momentum and get some real traction at the end of last season. One driver that we both obviously saw a standout last year in the midget category, and someone that's carrying that momentum in terms of their mileage offshore, is Hayden Williams. So he's been a busy guy over the winter months, that's for sure.
Yes, he has. He had been there or thereabouts for maybe 4 or 5 seasons. Then he became part of the BSL team, and he grew another leg, to be honest. As the season progressed, he got better and better and better. And then he dominated, in my opinion. So our normal domination was by Michael Pickens and Brad Mosen. Then all of a sudden Hayden Williams came into the picture as a real force and just really annihilated them in the New Zealand Championship. He went then on to race in the United States, where he did remarkably well. Perhaps people might think, oh, he didn't podium as many times as whatever. I've raced in the US. I know how hard it is. And to be away from home for that length of time, him and Travis Buckley, they did a fantastic job to make every show, to make every feature and perform as well as they did. This is going to lead to him coming back to New Zealand with a newfound confidence, I'm sure.
Yeah, and you touched on obviously the likes of Michael Pickens and Brad Mosen, that both those drivers have had numerous trips to United States racing. Brad obviously way back when he was only 15 or 16 years old as well in his earlier years. So those drivers have always been a force to be reckoned with from the get-go. From the moment the cars hit the track, they're generally the two drivers out the front. So I think this year's definitely going to spice things up and bring Hayden Williams into the mix, and he'll have a point to prove, obviously, like you say, running out of the BSL stable again with that Esslinger bullet chassis.
Yeah, he will be. There's also some other guys, like there was a young guy came out of TQs last season, did his first year in midget cars. He sort of finished the season before in the midget car, did the whole season last year in midget cars, and really he got going very well as also finished second in the New Zealand Championship.
Yeah, that's right. So Ryan Baker once again really gained some real momentum as the season went on, obviously running out of the Shane Alex stables as well. And obviously we all know Shane Alex's reputation here at Western Springs and throughout New Zealand Speedway tracks. So definitely having Shane as a mentor and someone sort of steering him in the right direction, and you could definitely see that car on the track and some of the attitude and maybe some of the coaching that was actually coming through that Carter's Tyres car.
Yeah, I was speaking with Shane just a few weeks ago, and sadly Shane lost his father in the off-season, and Ray was a real mentor to me, and Shane was just a young guy and came up through the ranks, but Shane says he's perhaps just going to back off a fraction now and see if Ryan can pick it up and apply himself a little bit better himself rather than relying on Shane, which is the right thing to do, like a parent, just sort of stepping back a bit. So he's going to be someone to really keep an eye on, and I can't wait. There's some other guys in midgets that are going particularly well at the end of the season, and now we just know that their preparation has been superb off season. They've had a bit of extra time to do all that sort of thing, and some new technology has come out as well. So we're going to be looking at some of those things and explaining to the audience just what the difference is and why they've made the changes, and keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, and I think just touching on some of the difficulties that some of the teams have actually been able to try and get equipment and parts out of the United States, as so many of the parts come from offshore, that a lot of these guys have still managed to turn out some of the cars that we see behind us.
Fantastic, aren't they?
Beautifully presented, latest technology. We were admiring the Brad Mosen machine, the Greenway machine behind us earlier, and some of the technology that we're seeing on these cars is somewhat phenomenal.
Yeah, well, like I said, I can hardly wait. So we're going to go back to Nick Brown now, and he's going to just get us a bit more organised. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks very much, guys. I'm looking forward to actually seeing the cars in the background there. Has got me all excited as well. Graham is just a mine of information when it comes to Western Springs Speedway. He's going to feed you all the good stuff. And Ali, a great commentator, plus ex-driver as well. So he really knows what it's like happening out there on the track. We've got more to come here on our test night, if you like. I do apologise. There's a little bit of buffering on the stream. Rosehill College was what you needed to take out of Troy Pennington's thing. Hopefully that'll work for when it comes to doing the quiz. All right. I've got more clues for you a little bit later on, and a chance for you to join us when we do go racing here at Western Springs Speedway. We'll take a break and we'll be back with you in just a couple of seconds. Welcome back to Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway, our countdown to our opening of the 2021-2022 season. Now, if you'd like to go to our Western Springs Facebook page and enter the code, you need to write this down, live stream December 11. And live stream, all one word, December. The 11 is just 2 ones, you know, like the number 11. If you write 11, it'll take you to a different web place and your mum will be asking you forever, why have we got this bill? So, live stream December 11, that gets you in the draw to win 2 tickets to join us in the Jack Daniels Legends Lounge to be used any night during the season, and we've got all the information about that coming up soon here on our test night. And we once again do apologise for the buffering. We will be up on the YouTube channel, the Western Springs YouTube channel, within 24 hours with this whole thing, if you missed any other part of it. Now, joining me up here in the studio for, well, it's a class that started out as a uniquely Western Springs class, the F2 midgets. Leighton Kendall, F2s. If you can briefly explain to me what's the difference between a midget and an F2 midget.
So the key components that are different at the moment, we run a restrictor in your injection, so that restricts the airflow that comes through, and we are a 2-litre production motor. So for instance, your Nissans, Honda and the likes, Toyota, and so more of a production type motor as opposed to a full-on race motor. And the other key area is the changing to no adjustable shocks or no cockpit adjustable. So what you go out the gate with is what you've got. Right. And the idea behind that was to bring a more cost-effective racing method that was much like TQs, you know, with the standardisation across the class to make it more about the actual driving technique to get in there before you can start fine-tuning the machinery as much. Yeah, definitely. Like a key piece of it, a lot of people are coming into F2s. It's a good introductory class. We're seeing drivers progress into midgets, sprint cars, and move on to other classes, or come from some of the other stock car type tracks and classes and go, look, actually I want to come into midget racing. And there's a bit of an expense. There's a pretty big learning curve from there. And over the years, some of the rules have been loosened up. So in the early days, there was no carbon fibre, there was no titanium. So those rules have been relaxed now. So it's much more, you can just go and buy a midget car that's been run, take your cockpit adjusters off, put your 2-litre production motor in, and off you go. You can go racing.
And I actually noticed the end of the season here at the Springs, a couple of the guys would pull out the restrictors and go racing with the, was it the 50 lapper? A couple of the F2s stepped up into that as well.
Yeah, so some of the guys picked up for the New Zealand Midget Champs. The F2s weren't running that night, and a couple of guys decided they would take their restrictors out. Some cars are easier to take out than others. For instance, I've got a Nissan car where those restrictors are attached directly to the injection, whereas we've got a Honda car, and that Honda, we can just slot them straight out. It literally is probably a 2-minute job to take that restrictor out, and we can go and run. We'll still be restricted. We don't have the same horsepower because we're only a 2-litre motor versus a sort of a 2.7. So we're down on cubic inch in power, but when it comes to those slick tracks, the F2 boys, we can get the power down. And early in the season, we noticed that Aaron Hodgson set a quicker lap time in the feature than Pickens in a Toyota.
Didn't he just? I mean, that thing was a rocket ship, wasn't it?
It was, and it was interesting. So, okay, look, with slightly different tracks, and we probably got a slightly better track at the earlier stages of that night for that feature, but Aaron went and jumped out from the F2 midget, of which he won the feature. He then went and jumped into the BSL car, and along with the other guys in the midgets, and they just couldn't do the same lap time.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Now, how long has the F2 class been established in New Zealand? Because it was brought into Western Springs as like a local class, wasn't it? And how long ago was that?
So it was brought into a local class that started running their own grids, but off the back, and that was sort of 2005, 2006.
Right. And like you say, running off the back. And I remember seeing them running off the back, and there was a definite line you could draw between the A grades and the F2s. But like you say, I mean, Aaron Hodgson, last season, man, he was getting that thing quite quick out there.
Yeah, and look, there's a few guys, and they've looked at it, and there's a quite a difference between the sort of the team level. I think that if you look at F2 midgets, and the primary people that are racing and in the class are generally guys that own their own cars. They've got their own components. The sponsorship side of things, probably the guys are slightly smaller side in terms of what they're looking at compared to your big midget teams, which are going with the Toyotas and the later model Esslinger engines and the like. So it's more of a budget racing, and it seems to be a bit more of a family feel within the F2s. And look, that's why I jumped into it. I went from a full midget to going into an F2, and I was getting out of the sport. And look, it's the best thing I've done.
Now, you talk about getting out of the sport. At the end of last season, and I've got to say, how long did it take you to get your first podium here at the Springs?
So we've had plenty of podiums over the last 3 years. We've had a lot.
But there was just the one in the number one position.
Yeah, so we got a feature win here at Western Springs, and that was in our 10th season of racing. So it's always been, like I've been brought up before I was even a child, coming to Western Springs, and it's always been something I've wanted to do.
Well, good things comes to those who wait. But I do remember the conversation we had out on the field where I gave you the microphone and a few words slipped out that possibly shouldn't, because you were excited. You were excited. But the overwhelming thing was you said you were downscaling going into this season. But what's happened in the off season?
Yeah, so that's a common theme in my household in terms of what we do and F2s and midgets and the like. So look, we decided we're sort of pulling back. Somehow over the years, I ended up owning 2 cars, and just magically, and we bought a new house this year and got a bigger garage, and thought, no, I'm still going to downsize. We gave our Honda car a really good run at the end of the season, and my brother gave it a run at Waikaraka Park, and he came from the back through to 5th. He passed me in the good old Nissan that we've been running for years. But we just sort of said, look, we were going to downsize, and we did. We sold off one of the cars. But then, counter to what I usually do, we ended up through Terminator race cars and Ron Kendall and the team. We've built a new car this year. That was decided on the 10th of October.
Right.
We had time. We're not racing. Let's build another car.
So a 2-car team this year. You're looking maybe if someone wants to get into F2s. The cars available? Yeah,
so definitely. We've got a little bit of interest. That's been some restrictions in terms of the lockdown, getting people into Auckland. So there's some options there, or potentially look at doing some lease options. So I can only drive 1 car. So there is an option there if people are looking to drive another car. We want to get more people into the class. This year we've got, I think there's 9 rookies coming into the class. And we've got about 26 drivers in terms of across the various tracks around what we're running. So F2s is going really, really strong.
There you go. And it's exciting racing here at Western Springs, as Leighton was telling us before. I mean, they're running real fast times out on the track. Looking forward to the 2021-2022 season. Graham Standring, speaking of some of the great runners, is just outside. He was having a look at one of the cars out there of Jamie McDonald, the number 71 sprint car. And as long as I can remember coming here to Western Springs, that car has always been the car to look at. It's immaculate to go out there. And Graham's down there with that car and Jamie right now.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I'm down here with Jamie McDonald. Now, Jamie, you've had a weird sort of an off-season that most guys would dream about, but it's brought its own issues with it. So can you just explain what happened at the end of last year? And you've sold your whole deal, so what happened there?
Yeah, well, we weren't planning to sell it as such. We're thinking of upgrading the trailer, and one thing led to another, and we got in touch with, Benji Sneddon got in touch with us, and he bought our whole race team, truck, trailer, pit mule and race car. So really, really big season, only having 6 months, and with all the lockdown challenges, trying to get all this built for today.
Yeah, so just fill me in. Everything that you've got, everything that we see here at Western Springs, this magnificent trailer, this car that is like one of the best I've ever seen, is all brand new. Everything, right down to the last nut and bolt.
Yep, more or less. We kept our engines. They were the only two things we kept. But yeah, everything's new and a huge challenge, especially, I guess lockdown helped us a little, because I don't know if we would have been here today without it. But it had its challenges trying to get parts and everything powder coated and painted and everything that goes along with it, and trying to get the motor back from the States. The shipping was bad. So yeah, there was a lot of challenges.
And just tell us about the guy that you sold your car to, Benji
Sneddon.
Benji Sneddon, yeah. Has he had a racing background? Can you just fill us in?
Yep, he's had quite a good background in super stocks. I think he won a couple of big meetings, maybe the 240s, I think it is. So he had to drive in my car at the end of last season at Kiki, and he went really well. And I think he had a practice last weekend at Harrisville, and yeah, he's building on that. So he's running the 8K, so he's registered to Kiki, but he's going to do a lot of racing up here in Auckland. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Now, when did you start sprint car racing? Just tell us a bit more about your career. You started in quarter midgets, and incidentally, you've started in the same quarter midget that Michael Pickens started, or you sold your quarter midget to Michael Pickens. So
yeah, that's right.
A bit of history there, but when did you start racing, and you did some TQ stuff, did you?
Yep, my uncle and my father raced TQs, so after quarter midgets I went and raced TQs, and then I started racing sprint cars in the 04-05 season.
Oh, yeah. So that's quite a while now, and you had a season off, the season before last, came back with bang, as such.
Yeah.
Wrecked a few cars, but certainly got it all together now. Run us through what it's been like to build a whole team. What's been involved. You've got obviously the same sponsors. You've had these sponsors for a long time. Now that's a testament to how well you look after them and what sort of value they get in sponsoring you in a sprint car. But you haven't done this by yourself, of course.
100% no. The relationship we've got with the sponsors is awesome. It grows every year, and I think getting all this new gear, it's reinvigorated everyone. It's a new deal. We're really excited by it. They've really come to the party and helped us out get all this stuff built and finished. Lee, my crew chief, absolutely worked himself to the bone during lockdown and getting all this stuff finished and this beautiful race car done. We haven't seen a lot of the boys because they haven't been able to come up, but just a huge effort from everybody, my family, my wife for putting up with it all. It's just such a team effort, and it's so much fun and so much enjoyment when you actually get to the track for the first meeting and roll all the stuff out and then go and have some fun.
Given the fact that we've had the extra time, I know what it's like when you're rushing to put a car together and all that sort of stuff, and all of a sudden the season's on you. Have you had a chance to actually have a break, get a breath of fresh air, and then just sort of, okay, now I'm ready to race, or you're still, no?
Not a chance at all. We've been 7 days, day and night. We're not professional racers. We've got day jobs and businesses and, family commitments like everybody else. So this is all fit in, after hours. So it is just ruthless, and I respect anyone that actually makes it through the gate with a race car and a race team, regardless of how they do on the track, because I know what's involved year after year, and just putting it all together is just such a huge thing in your spare time. Just
without being too sort of specific, can you give us a rough idea what would cost to build a car like this? Just roughly.
Yeah.
Are we talking 100,000, 90,000, just ballpark.
Look, it all depends. You can go and buy a second-hand sprint car for around $40,000 and it's capable of winning a race. But if you were to buy a new sprint car engine will cost you, 90, 100 grand these days. And then the race car, it just depends whether you use titanium parts. And, the sky's the limit with how much you can spend. But the great thing about sprint car racing is you don't need to spend that money to win races. You could buy a good second-hand car for around $40,000, $50,000, and go out there and win a feature if you're good enough and you set the car up well enough.
Yeah. Quite a different thing. Like driving a sprint car for the average person is quite a bit different from a midget car. There's a third factor involved in it, the wing, and the wing's adjustable. So when you drive a midget car, you fire it into the corner and it wants to tip out this way. With the wing on the top of the car wants to actually go towards the infield. When you first started racing in, 2004, 2005?
That's right.
Was that one of the biggest hurdles to come over?
I was about 21, 22 at the time, and it was probably to my advantage because I got told just put your foot down and hang on, and that's exactly what I did, and it worked out pretty well for me because we had a good first season. So, when the conditions are right and the car's set up well, you can run damn near full noise around there and just hang on. But it's, as the track changes and it gets more difficult, that's when you need to use more finesse, a better car setup, use your brain a bit more. And there's a lot to it. It's another whole dimension with the aerodynamics over mechanical grip. So, it does take a lot to get your head around, and, it's a different deal to midget racing.
And here at Western Springs on a quarter-mile clay oval as such, what's a good lap time?
I think the lap record's down to low 11s or whatever. So, but typically they're around 12-second laps around here, which is it's moving around a quarter mile dirt oval.
It's unbelievable when we watch you guys and the speed that you go past us from the outside. It's just it's breathtaking to see that you can actually get it into the turns and all that sort of stuff. It's just a sensation. One of the things about sprint car racing, we talk about the aero with the wing, etc., etc. When you're back in the middle of the field, does that have a big effect on your speed through the turns and things like that? You're getting a lot of aero wash, the air's going in the same direction as your car, versus the guy who's out in the front and gets the advantage of fresh air.
Yeah, you bang on. We didn't think about that a lot in previous years, but now you really notice it. When you're out front, life's pretty good, you know what I mean? You got clean air, you can run your line with no distractions. When you run in second or further back in the pack, there is a lot of aero wash. The car doesn't feel the same as it does when it's out the front. So yeah, there's a lot of things to consider, and yeah, you can mitigate that by running a different line and stuff, but it is trickier to follow than to lead.
Okay, well, Jamie, look, just looking at this car, I've had a good look all over it, and I'm a real details guy, and absolutely the detail on this thing is superb. So it's a testament to you and you guys, and we certainly wish you all the best for the coming season, and hope that we can perhaps peel the number 7 off the car later in the year.
Not this year.
Not this year, no, that's right, no championships this year. But let's say an imaginary 7, we'll take that off. And right now we're going to go back to Nick.
Thanks, Graham.
Thanks, guys. I got to say, I've been lucky enough to actually drive one of Jamie's cars. It's one of the ones that he moved on some time ago. Could have been me that caused it to crash, but that was an absolute thrill to be in one of those things. It's a beautiful looking car out there. Actually talking to Jonathan Allard a little bit later on when it comes to sprint car drivers. And I know there's a little bit of buffering as well. A few people are getting in touch saying, mate, it's buffering. You know, this is the test night for sorting this out, and we'll tell you why, because we've got some things special lined up. In fact, the guy that can explain all of that about what we've got lined up for the 2021-22 season is coming up here at Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway. We've got John McCullum with us in just a second. Welcome back to Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway. It's our test night, if you like, as we get ready to set up the Western Springs 2021-2022 season. It's been a bit of a tough time getting things sorted. With COVID and the way it's affected the country and the way we're moving into a different way of dealing with getting crowds in and out and around, and it's happening right across the board. So it's a lot of planning has gone in to try and bring Western Springs Speedway back. The guys are ready to go with the cars. The production team is getting set, testing everything out. But behind the scenes, making it work, the guy that's been doing all the tough work so far this season, John McCullum. Mate, what has it taken to get us to this point?
Yeah, Nick, thanks for that introduction. It's certainly different to any other year. We had a slightly tough start last year when we came in late after the tender process, but this year it's really hard not to run Speedway. It'll be a whole lot easier if we're running Speedway. We know more about that, but to try and get us to a point where we can start, the idea of having this test night tonight to try and iron out some kinks in the system. I apologise that things aren't going perfectly, but that's what the test night was about. We will get it right, absolutely.
So what can we look forward to for the 2021-2022 season?
Well, the first big thing, I guess, which I don't think anyone's done before, is we're going to run the COVID Cup right here on the 11th with no audience. The COVID Cup live streamed.
So we're going to live stream the racing here at Western Springs?
That's right, just midget and sprint car racing, no audience. You can have 100 people, we might as well have none, and we'll live stream it, sit at home, enjoy it.
So now you know why we're getting the buffering and we're sorting out all the bumps and lumps. In fact, you can watch this and just recap on this on the YouTube channel again tomorrow, but we're trying to sort this out. Now, how is that actually going to work?
So there's a fair bit of planning gone into that to get it around the authorities. We'll have separate pit areas, separate entrances, separate changing rooms, all the safety protocols in place for the dreadful COVID. And then the racing will be just as hot as ever. I think we've got 32 midget cars and a full field of sprint cars running over a pretty good format. And the only thing we won't have is any audience noise, so a little different.
The planning to get all that sort of thing, like you say, complying with all the rules and regulations, which anyone that's been following the rules and regulations around Speedway, it's been a moving target all the time. How could you, did you come up with a plan and tell them, look, you sort out your business, this is how we would see it done?
I think all you can do, Nick, at the moment is have a plan. And if you haven't got anything to follow, which we haven't, we just go, okay, on the 11th, we're going to do this. And if someone stops us, they stop us. But in the meantime, that's what we're planning on doing. And once we get it out of the way, we'll say, on the 18th, we're running the next show. And you just got to keep pushing forward. If you stopped and waited for someone to make up their mind of how it's going to be, you'd never get off the ground. So we've just got to keep being positive. I'm really lucky at Western Springs. I've got a great boss in Bruce Robinson, who's been pretty patient with the Auckland situation, and we've got a really tight team. The competitors have been fantastic. All the guys have been ringing up saying, hey, we know it's not your fault. You're doing your best. Putting the live stream show on is something we're doing for them. So we're doing the best we can in the conditions.
Right. So the COVID Cup, as it's going to be called, coming up on the 11th, and on the 18th is when we start with the crowd. Now, how is that going to work with all the rules and regulations that go into that?
So to run with a crowd, we've got to go to an orange light. So that's the traffic light system is in play. Red light, no crowd. Orange light, away we go.
Yep.
So we're in the positive manner we're carrying on with. We're going the 18th. We're going with a crowd. So that's what we're looking for. And we've worked with Event Finder, our ticket people, and our security company, Red Badge, to make that as seamless as possible. It's always going to have a few more steps in the process now?
Yeah, I mean, with all the rules and regulations, the way I understand it is you've got to show this, and then you've got to do that, and then you'll be getting up to the counter to buy your tickets, and then you'll be going through. So it'll slow the whole thing down. So what have you come up with?
So the basic principle we'll understand is you've got to have a full vaccination pass to get in the stadium. That's the rules, not our rules, but those are the rules. So to make that easier, if you can buy your ticket online, pre-buy the ticket, even if you buy it on the queue on the night, if you stand in the queue and buy it, you're going to go to a separate window, separate alley. You're going to go straight through with one scan. Event Finder have got an integrated scan. They're going to scan your ticket once. That's going to prove everything they need to know, and then you go. If you stand at the window and buy your ticket, one, it'll cost you $5 more, and secondly, you're going a longer queue. So to try and make the process smoother, we've come up with a system with our event people to try and get you through past that gate system.
That's a brilliant system, actually, because with any event at the moment, you go through and you get scanned to look at the ticket. Now, if looking at the ticket can take care of all the other reasons for scanning as well, that just makes it a whole lot simpler and easier, doesn't it?
That's right. And so everyone's going to get the ticket scanned. So if you've bought your ticket already, and all you've got to do is go through the one scanner at the window for the prepaid tickets, then you're in one go. Otherwise, you're going to go to the window, get your ticket, do your ID, go to the next scanner, go in a longer queue, and you're going to come. So do yourself a favour. When the tickets go on sale for individual events, buy it online, save $5, get in quicker.
Okay. Now, with the season coming up, we've got, there's going to be no championships this season for Speedway across the country. So it's like the world's biggest testing phase. So what events have we got coming up here at Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway? Because I know you got something special lined up.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of events going on through there, and I guess the thing that's exciting me the most, I know it's exciting some of the teams the most, and it happened, we planned it before we knew there was no championships, but now that there is no championships, it's really going to work is the Sprint Car Masters Series and the Midas Midget Series. So the Sprint Car Masters has got the 23 best sprint cars in the country entered. We're going to go on tour to 5 different venues over 7 shows. It's going to come to Western Springs a couple of times. And the guy who wins that this year, he's looking like the best driver in New Zealand to me.
Yeah.
Same deal with the midgets, the Midas Midget Series. The All-Stars are going to go all around the tracks, different venues, different people, huge field, 23, sold out that field. And we're going to add in the local cars. Once again, if you can beat everybody over 7 nights at 5 different venues, you're probably the best driver going around.
Yeah, I like that. I'm excited by that as well. But also, in nights here at Western Springs Speedway, there's going to be some special guest drivers as well, I believe.
Absolutely. There's some guest nights. We'll bring in the super stocks that we had back last year. I know, love them and hate them.
No, I loved them.
There's plenty of people out there that like tradition. They want just what they have every week. They all like mints, but it's sometimes you've got to have something else. And super stocks are a huge class around New Zealand. And as you'll know from our Speedway pedigree here, Speedway's about a lot of different parts of the sport. So let's add in the super saloons, the super stocks. They're all part of Speedway.
I do love when the super saloons come as well. So we've got the full Speedway, I guess, experience at Western Springs, open wheelers and the super saloons and super stocks as well.
Yep, there's something for everyone. So if you generally don't come to Western Springs because you don't like what we race here, come the night that we put something on that you do like. If you don't like open wheel racing, come the night we have super stocks. Come and enjoy the experience.
Look, it's all about racing. John, thanks so much for that and making it easy. Don't forget, as John said, if you get your tickets online, right, you make sure you get it online. When you turn up at the gate, there's just one scan. You come through. It's just as easy as. Make it simple and easy for yourself and come and enjoy the racing here at Western Springs Speedway. And above all, get ready because we will have the buffering fixed for the 11th of December, the COVID Cup, here at Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway. It is going to be brilliant. John, I'm looking forward to the season. It is going to be brilliant. You did mention the Midas Midget Series with some of the best drivers in the country, and one of them is going to be interviewing another one just down in the pits right now, Graham Standring and Brad Mosen.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Nick. Down here with Brad Mosen. Brad, we were just talking off air. You started when you were 11 years old. You're 34 years of age now. When did you first move into out of quarter midgets and then into midget cars?
I think it was in the early 2000s, somewhere around there. I started racing in '98 in the quarter midgets. Obviously, I think most people within the Speedway world know that my family's a big Speedway family, motorsport family in general. So it was kind of just set up, ready for me to go. Just jumped in the quarter midgets for 4 years, and then a couple of years in TQs, and then I think I was 17. Probably around 2003 when I jumped into a midget.
Yeah, unbelievable. And so we've had an awesome off-season as such. You guys had planned to go and race in Australia. So tell us a little about what brought that on and what eventuated with that.
Well, so we were planning on going to a race in the Northern Territory in Darwin called Chariots of Thunder. Basically, it just came from, we just had so much fun last season that we wanted to continue it, that's really honestly. And Wayne came up with the idea. We were sort of talking about going to America or Australia, and then this race popped up, and then it sort of just ended up becoming what we were going to do in our off-season. So we kept the car together, and we ended up sending it over to Australia, and then obviously all of the COVID stuff hit. So the event was
they still ran the event, but the midgets got canned because a lot of people in Australia couldn't make it to the event. It was a bit of a shame for us because it was a costly experience for Wayne to send and Greenway to send the car over to Australia and then back, and it was a bit of a headache, to be honest. It's only just got back a week ago, so a lot of parts, a lot of tools and stuff that we sent over there, but I mean, it's all. I mean, aside from not getting to race, that's life. That's just the way things happen, and it's not so much a negative experience aside from the financial hit. But it's just all part of doing what we do in racing. If there's a race somewhere and we can get to it, chances are we'll try and get to it and see what happens.
Yeah, now I just want to go through the last season. So you start off the season without a drive, then you got picked up by Wayne Green, and then you just got better and better and better as the season progressed. Towards the end of the season, you guys decided, undecided, I suppose, to put it another way, about which chassis you were going to use. So you're using two cars at the end of last season. One was a Bullet chassis, and one was the Tim Clark chassis. So tell me now what chassis you have decided to run for this season.
So this year we're going to run the CP3. I think that's what it's called, CP3 X, which is one of Tim's designs. I think Shane Alec might have had something to do with it too. So the whole idea behind it last year was we're having such a good season with the Bullet that we ran that right through until the end of the New Zealand title, and then following that, not that any race is less important than any others, but we thought it was the right time to start playing, just to sort of make a call for the next year, because Wayne did have a bit of an itch to see what these things were like. He'd seen Ryan Barry going pretty good in Shane's car, and Wayne and Tim are close, so it made sense to give it a go, and we got a win, and we sort of raced for a few podiums, but we're obviously still in the learning phase, and it showed a bit of potential, so we've built a new car this year, and we're going to see how it goes.
Yeah. So just tell me, how many cars have you got? Or how many, if you had to bring all your cars down to start racing this season, how many have you got?
There's 5 midgets in the shop, and he's got a couple of those micro sprint things. But we've got 2 of these. We've got 2 Bullets. They're not full cars.
Wow.
We've got enough running gear to probably build 2.5, probably 3 cars. And then Wayne's got one of his earlier midgets that he bought out of America, which he's rebuilding. So we wouldn't really count that as a race car. It's a little bit older, but
okay.
As far as cars that we could put together and go race competitively, there's probably 4.
Okay, that's amazing. And tell me, like, through your outstanding career that you've had, you did some racing in the United States, and we all know about a meeting called the Chili Bowl, which is an indoor meeting in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's like snowing outside, the whole deal. Tell me, how many times did you race there, and what was what was that all about?
I've been there quite a few. I think I've been there 3 times. I went there once with the Synergy, which was the Kiwi built cars. The
2 V8 motorcycle
the Synergy
engines, wasn't it?
V8s,
Yeah.
and then some aggressor cars that we built from New Zealand with Luke Fisher and Simon Longdale, and then through when I was driving for Justin Inslee, I think it might have been the following year, we sort of got tied up with Andy Bondio, so I ended up going and run for him.
Wow.
He's quite a well-known historic Chili Bowl car owner.
Yes.
That was a really cool experience. So me and Justy went up and ran 2 seasons with Andy. So, and Sean did the next year. So yeah, I've been 3 times, and yeah, hopefully plenty more.
Yeah, I remember the Bondio car. The Bondio wheel had like a motorcycle left front wheel, so because the left front wheel doesn't do as much work as the rest. He had funny little tail tanks on it. He had a whole lot of different stuff. So it must have been quite an experience to do something in quite a radically different car. But did it feel that much different when you were driving it?
Sometimes each race was a little bit different, to be really honest.
Okay.
It was some races it was really fast, and some races it wasn't. I don't know if there was something to do with the balance that was a little bit off, or maybe it was me. Who knows? So, but an awesome experience. Andy and all of his crew. We've still got some lifelong friends that we've made out of those trips, Justin and myself included, and Sean. So, awesome experience. Those guys are all just very clever, and the cars were all sort of. Yeah, just amazing to look over and just see the technology that they'd made by hand, and it basically just hot rods on steroids, yeah.
Yeah, well, Brad, look, your car behind us is fantastic. We're really hoping that you're going to have another fantastic season, especially if you keep building on what you had last year. You'll be, along with Hayden Williams and Michael Pickens, you're the top 3 guys, no question. We certainly wish you all the best, and so when we start racing, keep an eye out for the number 10 car, Brad Mosen.
We'll be there. Yep. Looking
And
forward
back
it.
to Nick now.
Thanks very much, guys, and great to see Brad Mosen. He's had a great season in that Greenway car, the number 10. Last couple of years have been absolutely stunning. And don't forget, the COVID Cup is coming up, so the cars will be racing. You'll be able to see them on the stream. And when we do get back to being here at Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway, you can be in the Jack Daniel Legends Lounge. All you have to do is go to the Western Springs Facebook page and enter the code livestream December 11, and by 11 I mean the number 11, and you go in the draw to win 2 tickets to the Jack Daniels Legends Lounge that can be used on any night during the season. And after what John told us before, there is the COVID Cup coming up, and what we've got lined up with the Midas Midget Series, and the Sprint Car Masters. It is an absolute pleasure to be sitting next to this guy, Jonathan Allard, from Chico, California. What year was the first year you raced here at Western Springs?
It was 2005 for Tauranga because I came down with the Outlaws, and I think it was probably 2008, 9, somewhere in there.
Okay, 2008 and 9. Just in case you're wondering, there will be a quiz question on this that you can see online as well, and Jonathan's just give you the answer. Now, you came down with the Zero car, always carried 0 on it, and always a great pleasure to watch. One of the great memories I have here at Western Springs, and we were talking about it just before, was I was standing up in turn 3. It was 1 lap to go. It was the feature race. You were running 4th, and the front axle had broken on the car. You came around turn 1, turn 2. You picked off 2 cars. You came up the straight. Man, it was unbelievable. It came up the straight to turn 3. You picked off another 2 cars, putting you in 2nd place, but you were on the back wheels because the front axle, and if you can see this, was at that angle with 1 wheel bouncing. It was not even connected to the blinking car. And you were literally driving the wheels off it. You shot through 3 and 4, and you won the race. And right there, in my mind, you became the greatest driver in the world.
Well,
How can you do that, for one thing?
I think it's just confidence in the car and probably not all the knowledge in the world about what was happening. It's a lot of times you can't see what's going on in the front end. So, you try to overcome problems in the car and do what you think you can do. And thankfully at the time we were running a lot of races, and we had a really good team and a good car, and thankfully it held on to win. But I've had them go the other way at times, but it's always entertaining here, and we're always here to put on a show and do the best we can do, and I'll never give up. And that's one thing that my team's all about, is not giving up.
I've got to ask you this question. When you first came over to race in New Zealand, and you raced here at the Springs, and you developed quite a following, and you kept coming back. You were racing in America, and then you come over and race the American off-season in New Zealand. What kept you coming back? What was it about racing in New Zealand, racing at the Springs?
Well, a lot of times I would run in Australia for a bit and then come down to New Zealand. We formed a lot of great friendships. The guy that originally bought the cars from us when we came over with the Outlaws, that was how I came into the sport. Kevin McGrill bought a car and asked me to come back down while I was in Australia. And so we started to form a lot of friendships, and the fans, and really had a good tie-in with a lot of good companies, and really it just formed into something that I really enjoyed. I enjoy New Zealand. It's like a second home to me, and then met my beautiful wife, and that's really what has drawn me back, really come back here full time and live and become a Kiwi, and really we go back and forth, through the years, back and forth to the States and here. So like I say, it's a second home, and the friendship and the racing's really good, and really I've enjoyed making this the destination.
Yeah, and the last couple of seasons I've been racing the Dalton-sponsored car, which of course Peter Murphy brought out. He's a good friend of yours, Pete Murphy. In fact, he taught you quite a bit.
Yeah, Pete's always been really close to me. When you're racing at home, you go through a lot of things, and especially when you're doing it for a career, you tend to get some friendships involved with different people that do the same thing so that you can relate things to them, and they go through the same challenges you're going through, so you can share information and really get a grasp on what needs to happen and how it needs to happen. And Pete was one of those guys for me. He had a lot of experience. He's a great promoter, great self-promoter. He's always pushing me to do a little bit more promoting of myself. But fortunately with Pete, got to know the Daltons and really formed a great friendship there. And unfortunately, when Pete got hurt, he wasn't able to race the Dalton's car, and they brought some USA drivers. And then fortunately with COVID, I was one they called up to come fill the seat, and it's been a pleasure ever since.
And the car sounds brilliant too when it's out on the track. Expecting big things now. You've had 0, you've had 3 NZ, you've had 2 NZ, you've had 1 NZ. We've got a long lead in to the next championship. So the biggest testing season ever coming up for the Dalton's car?
Definitely. I've got a lot of work to do. We want to gear up and really put a big effort in, and we've got the equipment to do it. But it's really all on my shoulders to put everything together and put the team together and really form the base of what's to come. And we are going to go back to 11 USA, so I get to check that one off the list, and that's really special and near and dear to my heart. So with Pete running that number for so long, and we're going to gear up and try to get back to the 1 NZ.
Just before we go, so I've got to say this. Ever since you've been coming to New Zealand, you race hard out here, but you've always had a real healthy respect for the competitors, the fans, but you've also given so much advice. I mean, even in the times when you were just turning up to watch, you'd always be down in the pits assisting not one driver, but every driver.
Well, I would say that that's part of being a fan. I've always loved to come and watch the races. Then you turn into a driver, a racer, and it's great to come see my friends, and to come back and watch is really difficult for me. So I got to put myself to work and really to try to help raise the sport as much as we can. We want everybody to be fast, be safe, and I've been lucky enough to be in a lot of positions to learn a lot of things from some really great people. So to pass that on, I feel it's owed to them and something that I'd like to do.
Thanks very much, Jonathan, and thanks very much for watching this, our test night here at Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway. Hopefully the buffering wasn't too bad for you. The idea is for us to iron this out, because on December the 11th, Jonathan, Jamie, Brad, and Troy and Leighton will be racing on the track. It's going to be the COVID races because there'll be no crowd, but we will have the racing right here for you. You can live stream it. You can watch it on our YouTube channel. You can watch it on our Facebook page. Don't forget, if you do go to our Facebook page, live stream December 11, you'll go in the draw to win 2 tickets to the Jack Daniels Legends Lounge, to be used any night during the season, because we plan on being racing with you live on this track December the 18th. That's when it's going to go on the road. So December the 11th, we'll see you online. December the 18th, we'll see you here in person. Lucas Oil's Western Springs Speedway, thanks so much. Cannot wait to see you when we go racing.